Hello and welcome to part 2 of the tutorial. This episode we will be beginning on the map because we have our fancy little player character we made last video. So now you might be wondering how to actually build your map if you don't have any 3D modeling experience. If you do have experience making 3D models for games, you could probably skip this episode, or most of it at least. But if you have no 3D modeling experience for games, I recommend watching this. So, I think we'll start with an office. So I'm going to delete this floor. And what we want to build our map out of is geometry, alright? Because basically, if you use, my engine doesn't have it, but if you just use the boxes, the 3D boxes, static meshes, the textures will look terrible on them. So you have to use geometry. So it's a little bit more optimized and better looking. And what we want is to make a bit of an office, get the right size. I'm going to drag the geometry box out. Alright, let's make it a bit bigger. For some reason it's not complying with me. Here we are. If you want your scale to be more exact, you can change the stepping value here or just turn it off. Turn off stepping. But I'm going to leave it on just to keep things nice and organized. Make sure this box is at 0, 0. Yep. And then make it smaller. About this size should do. And we'll bring it up. And enable hollow in the details panel here. This will make it obviously hollow on the inside. Now drag our player upwards. And if you want to snap something to the ground in Unreal Engine, you hold this blue arrow here, you drag it so it's off the ground, and then press the end key on your keyboard. For me, it's not working for me because I've got like a finicky engine version. It turns out this office is way too small, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger. There we go. Yeah, now it works. Maybe the room was just a bit too small. So, another cool thing you can do with geometry is you can go to geometry editing mode. For you, it might be up here. You might be in the default mode, and you'll click this drop down, a drop down around here, and it'll say select landscape, foliage, and brush editing. So if you go into the brush editing mode, you can select faces and then drag them individually, which really helps with 3D modeling with brushes. Should probably do this before you make it hollow, but I'm not too worried. There we go. Now the roof is a bit shorter. We play. There's no light, so it's a bit dark. But as you can see, we're inside a box with collisions. No textures quite yet. And we made it without ever touching a 3D modeling application, which is cool because it's just simple shapes that we can use to make our map. I heavily recommend this over making it out of individual static meshes that don't exactly align and are not all from the same modular pack that you have. My folders have disappeared because I have, because of my engine version. So first off, I'm going to get a light in here so we can see what we're doing. Just a point light. A point light is just basically a light that emits in all directions from the source. Like this. You can turn off lights so it's just full bright up here, by the way. I've been switching lighting modes by without telling you what I was actually doing. So I'm going to keep it in lit just to make sure it reflects what's actually outside, or it reflects what's actually in the game, sorry. And after that, you'll notice that the room might be getting a bit bright on its own without you ever actually touching these modifiers here. So what we need is a volume and post-process volume, because this is what's editing the light. And we need to make this unbound or infinite extent for you. Then we go to auto exposure. The min and max brightness will be 1, just so it doesn't change on its own, because that's terrible for your interior scenes when lights change on their own usually. So I'm going to keep that there. Infinite extent slash unbound means the effect will apply even if you're outside this volume here. So now we have a nice little box. I might actually put this under the map or something because it's in the way. And now we need to cut out some doors to shut the animatronics out with. I'm going to make a box here. And go to details here. Make it subtractive. That will make it cut out of other boxes in the map. Okay. I'm going to turn this off so I can make it flush with the ground. There we go. Make sure it's not cutting into the ground, otherwise the textures will look a bit weird later. Turn it back on. Perfect. See if that door's big enough. Not quite. We'll make it a bit taller. Make it flush with the ground again. Cool. That's a better size. Make sure you're always playing the game and walking around to make sure the scaling is correct. Otherwise, you'll have some issues later. Just trust me. Especially with lighting and physics. Okay. Now we need another door on the other side. We can make that by holding Alt and then dragging it on the axis you want to duplicate it to. Whoops. Drag it over here. Boom, 2 doors. So I think that'll be enough for now. You'll notice there's a bit of a crack in the floor here. We just have to move the door up a bit if you have that crack, because sometimes geometry it rounds to the nearest surface a bit too early. You have cracks in your floor. All right. Perfect. Now I'll show you how to add textures to this floor, to this room, sorry. We want to go to ambientcg.com for textures. It's my favorite website for just general textures. Then we want to go to surfaces, and we want a tile floor because of, Five Nights at Freddy's. So I think we'll just go with this one. This one looks the best, even though it looks like just a chessboard. So this website's really good because you get to choose your own resolution and format. For textures that tile over large distances, like over walls and floors, I recommend PNG. because in that case, with PNG, the compression isn't really noticeable. But with JPEG, you might have little artifacts. And it also depends on how big you want to tile the texture. So you could experiment with this quite a bit, but I'm just going to go with, I think, 2K JPEG, because this isn't going to be exactly the prettiest game in the world. I'm not looking for exact photorealism. And also the smaller file size will help with load times. I'm just going to put that on my desktop. Minimize this. Game. Make a materials folder again. And we'll go map. And then we'll make a new folder called tiles. We'll make another folder called text. Probably have to extract it first. Yeah, here we are. Extract files. Extract the texture. And when you open it, you'll see we have a few different things. We can delete that, and this. And normal GL. Make sure if you see something, if you see a blue purple texture with GL, normal GL at the end, just delete it, because we only want DX. And we're not going to do displacement for this tutorial. That's a bit too much. So the easy way to do this is just select it and then drag it. There we go. Okay. And then what we want to do after that, I'm going to teach you good practice. So you want to open your roughness and then disable this sRGB option. That'll make it so that the reflections are a bit more accurate. And if you have another texture called with the word specular in it, do the same thing to it. And if it has a metallic texture as well, do it to the metallic. And the last one will be occlusion or ambient occlusion. If it says occlusion in it at all, make sure sRGB is off on it. And save and close. Tiles. Material. We're going to call it m_tiles. Right click to open this menu if you didn't know. Open it. This window might look a bit scary, but you just pretty much just drag images in and plug them up. Plug them in. That's some weird terminology. Anyways, so let me leave this window here, save it. Open this textures folder. I'm going to drag our color. So just basically the general look of the texture is the color, or the base color, or the albedo is another name for it. Drag it in and then plug it into base color. We're not quite done yet. We'll go drag the normal DX, put it in, plug it into normal, and then roughness. Drag it in, plug it into roughness. So that's the general gist of making materials, for now at least. So we can close that, go to our tiles material, and then just drag it onto the floor, and then boom. And you'll notice that it's not quite right, it's a little stretched. So what you have to do is click on the floor, and then you'll see the scale option here. It's at 1:1 right now. It might say something different to you depending on your engine version. Just make sure it says 1:1 and then press apply. It'll quickly sort itself out. And if it's too small, you just click this lock icon and then just increase the value. There you go. That looks about right. And then when we play, you see our beautiful material with correct lighting interactions. You'll see it reflects where it should, and it's the right, got the right reflectiveness. It doesn't look just perfectly flat and like plastic. So we can also apply it on this face here. Do the same thing. You might notice it doesn't tile correctly here. So what we can do is we can manually move it using the pan value. And it's about correct. It's not quite right, but that's about how it would tile, which is good enough. Usually. Do the same here. Make it 2, 2. And it tiles correctly here already, which is great. Nice. So we have our floor. Now we need a wall material. For a Five Nights at Freddy's pizzeria map, I would recommend making your own material that fits with Five Nights at Freddy's. Obviously, it has a checkered pattern on the walls at the bottom here. You might have to make that material or find it on your own. But I'm just going to use ambient CG again. And I think I'll just look for a brick could be nice, but I'm going to look for a stone material. Yeah, this looks nice and industrial, like the Five Nights at Freddy's little building. Kind of like this. Can delete that now. Let me make our new folders. Map. Bricks. Making the folder, the file tree is pretty important when you're starting out. Otherwise, you will lose a lot of motivation because your project is just totally unorganized and you have no idea where anything is. So just delete the stuff we don't need. Don't want... displacement would be good for this material, but we're not going to bother quite yet. Delete displacement and delete GL. Keep all these. And then highlight it and drag it in. For some reason, saving takes a while, so I'm just going to do that. Make sure you're saving quite often, otherwise you will lose a lot of progress. Eventually, it will come back to bite you. So I'm going to call this m_bricks. Open it. Get textures. Find the color. Drag it in. Oh yeah, first we've got to open ambient occlusion and roughness. Make sure this is disabled on them. Generally, if you accidentally leave these enabled, your material will look way too shiny. And drag the ambient occlusion, plug that in. I've already got that. The normal. And then the roughness. Perfect. And then what we can do now is go drag it onto the walls here. Scale 2. Lock. For the walls, you shouldn't have to pan the material because it's all in the same geometry. Look at scale 2. And sometimes I've noticed in some games that people miss little areas like this one. So make sure this has the correct material. Doesn't quite tile properly, so let's pan it a bit. That looks good enough. Go down. And then yeah, that's good enough, honestly. Doesn't need to tile absolutely perfectly all the time across surfaces. Just has to tile perfectly on the same surface. Otherwise, your game will look a bit whack. Bring it down a bit. Oops. That's good enough. Yeah, you can also pan a smaller amount by using this drop down. One 256 is usually a bit too big for most cases. Save. And we're going to do, I think, one last material for the roof, or the ceiling, sorry. We'll go for a plank wood ceiling. You can choose whatever material you want. I'm just going to go with wood. It's probably incorrect, but it's fine for my use case. Quickly do this. Make sure you keep metallic. For some reason, Ambient CG calls it metalness, which is a bit of a weird term. Color. Metallic. Metalness goes into metallic. Normal. Roughness. Ambient occlusion. Apply this to the roof. Great. That looks pretty good in my opinion. I encourage you to find different materials to what I have. This is definitely an office I would sit in for 6 hours. Alright, so now we do need the rest of the map. We are missing quite a bit of stuff. So the next thing I'm going to show you how to make is the hallway, because you might be a bit confused on how to connect these geometry pieces. So what we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate the main office here by holding Alt and dragging. And then you'll notice our textures are already pre-applied, which is, it's okay. It doesn't matter too much. And the hallway is usually a bit shorter than the office. You'll drag it down, make sure it's flush. Bring it as close as the office as possible. It doesn't matter if they overlap each other. And what we do is we have to actually move this door block out of the way and then duplicate it again. Yeah, because subtraction geometry like this one, it will stop working on like newer sort of geometry. So if you place a new additive geometry into a subtractive geometry that's already there, it won't subtract from it. It's just a prioritization sort of thing. And to delete this old one, you just try and find it in the scene outliner and delete it. And we'll have to do the same on the other side, but we'll do that later. So hallway, it's usually a bit skinnier. Bit skinnier. Yep. And a bit longer. Won't make it too long. Long hallways are a bit overused. We'll put it here. So Yeah, it doesn't matter if they overlap. Bring it back a bit. Perfect. The textures are a bit stretched, but you can always click on it, set the scale back to what it used to be. This is where you'll notice that geometry is very useful for texturing, especially when you're starting out. It's not very professional to use these, but when you're starting out, it's perfectly fine. It looks great as a final product, generally. Just it depends how you use it. We'll move it up a bit because it's not quite lining up. There we go. That lines up pretty much perfectly. Cool. And then what we can do is just duplicate it to the other side. And we have to do the same thing here. Drag it out. And then duplicate it again. Okay, great. I'm going to delete the old one. Cool. This side doesn't tile quite as well. I don't know why. But it should be fine. If you look in game, it usually doesn't look too bad. Oh, that does look pretty bad there, hey, with the normal. Let's fix that. That's a bit better. Now this side, I think we have the same mistake. Great. This brick material is a bit awkward now that I'm looking at it, but it should be fine for the tutorial. Cool. File, save all. I'm going to disable motion blur in the post process here because I'm just not a big fan of it for debugging. But I might re-enable it later. Okay. Start FPS, see the performance. Yep, 120 FPS. Great. Okay, you can, after this episode, you can go and finish off the rest of the map if you'd like. But I'm going to end it here. Just after I finish making this tile correctly. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right too. So you can go ahead and make the rest of the map if you would like. I'm going to end it here. And in the next episode, I will have the rest of the main area sort of blocked out, ready for exploring. Okay, see you guys in the next episode.